Guys, welcome back. I think in the last video I made a small mistake. I said it was chapters 12 and 13, but really these videos are chapters 11. So this is currently chapter 11, and the next chapter we'll get through in this video is chapter 12. So let's continue on. He's on Everest Base Camp. He's seeing all the other commercial teams, which I think really interesting idea. We are right here. You could pick out the commercial climbing operations by the size of their tents and their camp spots, which were usually the best on the slope. I counted 11 of them, and that's when it began to dawn on me that Josh might be as cagey as old Zopa. There was a lot of competition sitting on the mountain under those large tents. Getting dozens of clients to the summit could bring in as much as $1 million. And if you were simultaneously mounting other expeditions on other 8,000-meter peaks, several $1 million. If an Everest wannabe was going to plop down 100 grand or several hundred thousand or several thousand to get to one of the lower camps, who were they going to give their money to? The company with the best success rate? The company with the best safety record? Or maybe the company who put the youngest person in the world on the world's tallest mountain, who also just happens to have the same first name as the company that put him on top. And did you hear about him climbing those skyscrapers in New York? Don't worry about the money. I'll get my portion back. The film crew should be here later this afternoon. She's here to cover Peak, not herself. I suddenly remembered where I had seen the name Holly Angelo. It was a byline under the article about me climbing the skyscraper. She was the reporter who broke the news about who my real father was. Did she dig up this information on her own? Or did Josh give her a call and spill his guts? The youngest person so far to reach the top of Everest was a 15-year-old Nepalese girl named Ming Kipa Sherpa. If I were 1 year older, I might still be in. I stopped in mid-step. What's the matter? Sanjo asked. Nothing, I said. Would Josh have bailed me out if I had already turned 15? I didn't think so. Was he using me? Probably. Did I mind? I wasn't sure at that point. He was paying more attention to me than he had my whole life. I'm gonna head back, I said. I should go too, Sanjo said. Zopa wants me to talk with the cook about helping in the mess tent. The job? I asked. For room and board, Sanjo smiled. Or tent and food, I should say. Perhaps, perhaps it will lead to something else. Tent and food was not going to get the tuition paid. I could talk to my father, I offered. If I asked him, I think he'd hire you for more than tent and food. Sanjo shook his head. We had better leave that up to Zopa. He brought me to the mountain. It's for him to decide. Sanjo's so nice. The next chapter, chapter 12. Yep, chapter 12 is called Rock Weasels. A little throwback. A previous chapter was called Rock Rats. Rather than confront Josh, I crawled into my tent, wrapped myself in my sleeping bag, and fell asleep. I know what you're thinking. Chicken. Maybe you're right. But what was I going to say? I will not be used, father. Or how about this? Send me back to New York so I can do my time. Take that, Dad. Besides, I needed some sleep before I talked to him. Walking around at 18,000 feet wears you down. And it turned out that I didn't have to find him because he found me. You awake? He asked. Yeah, I said, although I hadn't been until he stuck his head into my tent. He crawled in and zipped the flap closed. Did you get a chance to look around the camp? A little. There's a lot of competition for your company up here. Yeah, you noticed, huh? Next year there won't be so many commercial operations. There's only a finite number of people who have the money, time, and desire to get up this mountain. This will be the last year for a lot of the operations. Including peak experience? I asked. He grinned. Your mom told me that you're smart, he said. I guess you got that from her. Flattery never worked on me. So, how much trouble are you in? Like the judge said, I look good on paper, but the truth is I'm in debt up to my crevasse. Humor, on the other hand, always worked on me. I laughed. If we have a good season this year, he continued, we might be able to recoup some of our losses next year. It's all riding on how many people we get to the summit in the next few weeks and how much publicity we get. Which is why I'm here, I said. He gave me a sheepish look. Not entirely, he said, but yeah, it's one of the reasons. That's the main reason, I thought. Might as well get it over with. If I had been 15, would you have come to New York? He hesitated, then said, Probably not. I was right in the middle of leading a group of amateur climbers to Everest. I would have liked it a lot better if he had come to New York to save me because I was in trouble, not because he was in trouble. The youngest Americans to ever top Everest are a couple 20-year-olds, he explained. So, you being 15 might have worked, but truthfully, getting a 14-year-old up there has a lot more sex appeal, especially after your climb in New York. There are a lot of celebrities climbing this year. A couple of rockers, an actor, a football player. There's 7 documentary and TV crews on this side of the mountain alone, and just as many, if not more, on the south side. So, when we tried to get the media interested in our climb, there were no takers. Without publicity, we're circling the drain. Your skyscraper stunt was beamed all over the world. I knew about it before your mom called and asked if I could help out. Someone in our Chiang Mai office saw it on TV, figured out the connection, and called up here suggesting we try to put you on top. At first I told them no way, but then your mom called. I thought I could take care of your problem and mine at the same time. Did you talk to mom about what we're doing? Yeah, before I left Kathmandu. What did you tell her? I told her you were going to I was going to take you on a climb, but I didn't tell her where. She's not gonna like she's not gonna like it when she finds out. Don't be so sure. She may not climb anymore, but she understands what it's all about. That's why she lets you go on all those climbing camps. She knows that I might risk my own life to summit, but I would never risk anyone else's, especially my own son's, to get to the top of a mountain. What's going to make her mad is not telling her beforehand, I said. Yeah, you're probably right. But the reason I didn't tell her is that we can't let this out until you're back down. What about the film crew? They're not going to say anything. We're paying them. They work for us. What about Holly Angelo? He gave a deep, foggy sigh. It was cold in his tent. Blackmail, he said, or what amounts to it anyway. Somehow she figured it all out. I think she might have a line to Dr. Wu. And by the way, if you had flunked the physical, I wouldn't have brought you up here. Period. I would have sent you to Chiang Mai, and I didn't roll you in the international school there. Anyway, Holly called me here last week and said that she was going to print a story about your Everest attempt unless I gave her an exclusive. And now she wants to climb the mountain herself, I said. Yeah, and it looks like I'm going to have to give her a shot. Otherwise, she's going to start filing reports as soon as she gets up there here. Why do we have to keep it quiet? Well, because of the Chinese, he said. There's no age limit on this side of the mountain. But if they find out we're trying to put a 14-year-old on the top, they might pull our climbing permit. They've been trying to get a teenager on the summit for years. They wouldn't be too happy if an American teenager topped it before one of their own. He let out a harsh laugh. Politics, publicity, advertising, sponsorships, endorsements. Climbing has really gone downhill. I can't tell you how much I miss our rock rat days when we showed up at the base of a wall with a bag of trail mix and a bottle of water and an old rope. We're rock weasels now, and we'll never be the same. Josh! A high-pitched scream pierced the cold mountain. That would be Holly, Josh said. You know the voice? I haven't heard it in 15 years, but I'd recognize it anywhere. Kind of like fingernails scraping on chalkboard. Josh! We both winced. Holly was on the circuit writing freelance articles when your mom and I were climbing. She actually wrote a couple of good pieces about us. She climbed too, kinda. He shook his head. It was a scary thing to watch. Josh! So, I'll take you to the top, Josh said. But only if I can do it without killing you. If you make it, you'll be famous. And you'll help your old man live in comfort for the rest of his life. My plan is to sell the business in a few years and retire on the proceeds. Are we square? I wasn't sure about the famous part, and I wasn't happy about his reason for bringing me to Everest, but I did want to get to the top. We're square, I said, but no more caginess. I want to know what's going on. It's a deal. He stuck out his gloved hand and we shook. Josh! He unzipped the flap and peeked out. We better go say hello before she causes an avalanche. Mhm. That's the end of chapter 12. Pretty good one. I want to look at back to our a little map of our story here, how the story is kind of organized. This is one way to help us just like organize the events of a story. It's called a plot diagram. Plot is how a story is organized. A plot involves events and characters and setting and all these things that make up a story. So we'd already looked at our protagonist was Peak. We got a bunch of secondary characters. We actually added two more, Zopa and Sunjo. Um, the setting, we had New York at the start, then we had some Nepal, and now we're getting to Mount Everest and Everest Base Camp, and those are some pretty interesting settings for sure. And the book's doing a good job of exploring those. This is all an exposition. Exposition just means it's kind of setting up the story. Okay, it's setting up our characters, our setting, so where the story is, who's in the story, so that we have all these pieces in place for a conflict. And conflict is going to drive our story. So we have our characters we can use, we have our setting we can use, and then there needs to be a problem, a conflict that's going to create action and interest in our story. So we had our exposition, we're learning about our characters, and it started pretty quick in this story. Peak is in trouble for climbing a skyscraper. So our conflict has already started. Peak's now in jail, no good at all. So now this conflict has to get worse and worse, right? Josh shows up and he takes Peak to Thailand to avoid jail. So yeah, Peak gets out of jail because Josh shows up. Cool. And he gets to go to Thailand. Also cool. It's going to create more conflict and interest, right? Then Josh lied. Oh, something going on? No, maybe not. Then we learn Josh lied. Peak is going to Mount Everest. So even more conflict rising, right? Oh, now it's getting worse. He's going to Mount Everest. It's crazy. Then this chapter, we learn that if Pete makes to the top, he will save Josh's company and get famous. So the stakes are getting crazier and crazier for Pete. We also learned some interesting stuff about Josh's character in this chapter. How he lied, how he had just these sneaky motivations, how he really helped out Peak to help himself. And I don't know about this character. You let me know what you think. All right, I'm gonna let you go. This should be, I think I said on Monday you're watching this, and if you're not watching it Monday, no worries, guys. But the next couple days you're working on some descriptive writing, which we've done before in class for sure. Definitely check out the Juicy Words booklet and the example I have up on Teams. Those will help you out. There's also the next two chapters for Peak. They should be up, and then another Peak worksheet to work on. All right, guys. Bye.